My name is Paul Lauer, and I'm the Vice President for Safe and Clean Programs here at the Downtown Spokane Partnership. The Downtown Spokane Partnership is a nonprofit organization that was created to operate the Business Improvement District here in the core of downtown Spokane. It encompasses about 80 square blocks here in the heart of downtown. Homelessness and the opioid crisis is affecting downtown businesses in several ways. One of the main ways is just an increased amount of trash and debris that's left on sidewalks and in front of businesses and creates additional cleanup. There's also impacts to businesses in regards to folks that are experiencing homelessness, maybe entering a business and creating problems within the business and whether they're refusing to leave or maybe experiencing some sort of mental crisis, whether it's drug-induced or not, where they might be damaging products that's inside the business, camping out in doorways and limiting access to and from a business and things like that. So our ambassador team, when they're encountering folks on the street that are experiencing homelessness or drug addiction, are finding that they can be uncompliant in regards to things like sit and lie or pedestrian interference. So they're blocking sidewalks with, maybe they have a lot of things with them that are causing folks to not be able to walk by them. They may have folks that are experiencing some sort of mental crisis, whether it's drug-induced or not, but it's still a mental crisis, where they're yelling at people, banging on windows, maybe even walking out into the street. We've even had cases of people that start to just undress as they're walking along and things like that, which are, causes problems when you've got people that want to bring their family or their kids down here and you have people, acting this way. So that's typically the kind of things that they're experiencing when they encounter these folks. The clean team primarily encounters what I would call the residual effects of some of that, which is the cleanup of the messes that can be left behind. Things like trash that's left on the sidewalk or in a viaduct, which is underneath the railroad tracks, where they may stay for long periods of time or where they may sleep overnight. When they leave, they don't always clean up all of their stuff. We also run into issues with human waste cleanup and things like that on the streets in regards to folks that are, obviously, when they're staying outside overnight, they have no place to deal with those types of issues. Additionally, we run into picking up drug paraphernalia, things like needles, vials, homemade pipes, those types of things you find on the street, residuals from the actual drugs itself, whether it's tinfoil or things like that. And those are all things that we encounter every day out on the streets while cleaning up around downtown. So starting back in September of 22, the Downtown Spokane Partnership started to do a point-in-time count every quarter of the homeless population here within the bid and also in the area just to the south of what we consider to be the bid, so between the viaducts and the interstate. It was done so that we could try to see if we could find some information in regards to what the homeless population size was, how many people were actually sleeping outside at night, and then a way to track whether or not there's a positive or a negative impact happening based off of policies and things that are happening within the city. So the way we do this count is we get together with a team here in our office about 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes as early as 4:30, depending on the time of the year and when the sun comes up. And we have the areas broken out into, I think, 4 different quadrants that we have, and we have teams of 2 that go out and walk around and visually observe who's sleeping outside and just count, ultimately. We don't count folks that are up and walking around because it's really hard to determine whether or not they're actually have been sleeping outside, if that's the case. So it's really only people that are actually on the ground or in a tent and sleeping, or in their car sleeping out on the streets. We have been doing it once a quarter. I will say that we just increased to once a month, at least here for a short period of time, because we had seen a drastic increase in the amount of homelessness happening in downtown. In the last 3 months, I can say that we have seen a steady increase in the number of homeless that we've encountered downtown, and so that's why we chose to increase our count to a monthly count instead of a quarterly count. I think there are a number of things that probably attribute to that number going up. I would say that the opinion of most of the folks around in our office is that there has been the closing of a pretty large major shelter that was housing a number of individuals here in the city of Spokane. And as that shelter has gone through its close down procedure, we have seen a steady increase of folks living outside now in downtown area. The last 2 counts we've done, we've had numbers in over 100 within what we call the Business Improvement District. And then outside of that the district where we count, which is just to the south of us between the railroad tracks and the interstate, we've seen numbers in the 40 to 60 range, which is actually a lower number than we used to have in that area. And the number within the bid has increased dramatically from where it had been prior. So we've seen kind of a shift of folks moving more into the core of downtown over the past 3 months, and it has caused that number to go up pretty dramatically. It's really hard to determine whether or not there's been an increase in drug use among that population. When you're only counting folks that are actually sleeping or out, laying down, it's pretty difficult to determine whether or not they're an actual drug user. And I think it's difficult for us to completely stereotype everybody that's homeless into being a drug user. I don't know that there's any, correlation to that exactly. Probably our most common complaint from business owners in regards to homelessness and drug use is the fact that they have folks that decide to set up shop or camp outside their business on the sidewalk, and they feel like that negatively impacts customers wanting to come in or out of their business. So that's typically our main complaint, is that we are asked, if we can come by and ask people to maybe find another place to hang out or to move along somewhere else. And we do it in a way to let the folks know that they are violating sit and lie or pedestrian interference laws if they choose to stay where they're at. So we work pretty closely with the downtown precinct here of the Spokane Police Department, as well as the city's code enforcement department in regards to their abatement programs for homelessness. They have teams that go out and work on clearing out areas where people set up camps. And we primarily report to them areas that we see issues starting to pop up. Spokane Police Department has just recently started contacting us for some cleanup help when they go maybe to clear out an area within the bid. They'll give us a call and have our clean team come over afterwards to pick up trash and clean up afterwards and things like that. We're not seeing what I would say is a long-term positive, hey, they go in and clean out and it just disappears. I think the reality of the situation here in Spokane is that there's really not a lot of places for these folks to go. We don't really have the facilities and the resources in place to accommodate the number of people that we have experiencing homelessness right now. And so really what happens is you move people from one area and they just shift to another. So you're kind of just shifting the problem around in different areas of the city, or even within the business improvement district or the downtown area. So you might target a particular area where you see an issue coming up, and you make some progress within that area during that time frame, but those folks have just been displaced to someplace else because they really don't have any other place to go. Dating back to summer of 2023, which is when I came on the scene here in Spokane and started working with the Downtown Spokane Partnership, at that time, both the ambassador and clean teams were not seeing a lot of needles on the street. In fact, needle use, or at least needle pickup, had become almost non-existent. We were picking up hardly any needles at all anywhere within the bid. That has shifted pretty dramatically in the last six or 8 months. This summer, it was definitely a significant increase in used needles on the street and in certain areas where we have a lot of folks that are suffering from addiction hanging out. So we have seen a pretty dramatic increase in that. And the question is well, do we think that we're seeing an increase or a shift in the type of drugs that's being used from fentanyl maybe to heroin, which is more of an injectable? I don't know that we can definitively say that. We don't really have that kind of interaction with people. We're not dealing with them from the side of treatment, so we're not sure what people are addicted to. So from us, it's kind of a, we see the results of whatever they're using to do the drugs. I will say we have seen, along with that, we've seen a bit of a reduction in foil, which is typically the way that we get a fentanyl pill. So it does seem to be that there has been a shift in the type of drug that's being used on the street. Whether it's heroin or not, I don't know. So yes, the SPD and the city of Spokane and just finished up something that they called the CORE project, where they were targeting certain high emphasis areas for drug use and homelessness here in the downtown area. I would say that the areas that they were targeting had some positive impact, but as we all predicted, that shifted to other areas within downtown. So while there was a positive impact in the area that was targeted at the times that it was being targeted, those folks just found another place to go where they wouldn't be hassled, and so it created some other problem areas within the whether it's the bid or just outside the bid. I will say that we worked pretty closely with SPD while that was going on, and reported to them areas where we started to see issues cropping up that weren't there before, and they then kind of shifted their focus. But again, it's a little bit a little bit like you're just kind of shifting problems around into different areas is really much of what's happening. I think there's a pretty significant lack of services, and I believe that most people understand that. I think the city understands that. It's a matter of trying to find the funding and the resources and getting all the partners together in order to establish what some of those resources are and get them up and running, and that takes time. And I think as a city, I think this crisis kind of grew up pretty quickly without having a lot of time to be able to address it, and so I think we're playing catch up. I think we are starting to see, some changes in moving towards the idea that we could see some light at the end of the tunnel, but it's still going to be a little ways off. I mean, in order to get resources in place, it takes time to get them, built, people, equipped to be able to help folks and get these people directed to those places. I really think that most people in this town care about these issues. I think that they want to find solutions for them, and I think that that we can find solutions for them. I'm a positive person in general, and I think that there's that I want to look at things positively, and I think that we can make a difference. We're going to have to work together. We're going to have to find some compromises among some opinions between different groups. But I think ultimately, most of everybody realizes that there is an issue. They want to figure out a solution to the issue, because I think, for whatever your reasoning for why you want a solution, whether you're a business person because it'll be a positive thing for your business if there's a solution, or if you're somebody that's dealing with this issue. I mean, most of these folks that are homeless or drug addicted, if you could get them sober, give them a helping hand, most of them don't want to live in this situation either. I mean, that's not their choice. I mean, there might be a small minority of them that do choose to live that way, but most of them would not want to live this way, given the option.